her time. Ask her to stay. Ask him to stay. Find 100 ways. Hey! Okay. Being cool. Okay, the bridge, I have to do it. But love one, you'll just blow your only chance. Take the time to open up your heart. That's the secret of romance. Sacrifice if you can. Buy him some moonlight to wear. If it's one more star he wants, go all the way. In your arms tonight, he'll reflect that he owes you sweetest of deaths. If he wants to stay, find 100 ways. If he wants to pay. Okay, okay, all right. Mm. As I treat things like my cat. And by that, I mean destroy things because my cat likes to destroy things. She's precious. She's eating, but she likes to destroy things. Anyway, porn talk. So I've been busy. I have. And I don't quite make the time that I once did for porn, particularly in my 20s. But I was in my 20s, and that sort of relates to what I'm talking about. So being thirsty for porn, like I used to be, I I have a number of old porn videos in my stash that I go to from time to time, and I feel away, feel away. Huh? Ooh, that's not a joke. That's actually anyway. But yeah, I kind of feel a way looking back at that old porn because it's like, the people in those videos were 20 something. And being 38, about to turn 39 in what? 2 days. Okay. About to turn 39, like dudes in their 20s, that's not. Technically, as an 83 baby, I can go as low as 28, but I still, nah, because even I always say, like, when it comes to those 3 years in the 90s that might have a chance 90, 91, 92, oh, and 93. So I guess 4 years that have a chance. I won't hit you up if you hit me up and you are talking something that is really worth duh no, but talking some really good stuff and backing it up with some really good stuff, things I've not written you off completely, you know? But because I used to say I go 10 years older than me, 10 years younger than me. At 38 years old, though, I go, it depends on the chocolate brother. I can go up quite a ways older than me. As far as younger than me, I 10 years is my max, I guess. But I kind of would prefer somebody to be in the 30 and over club card. Anyway, but I was just looking at Calligraph Jones, who is a Kenyan rapper with his fine self, and he is a 1990 baby. Not only that, but he is a 1990 June Gemini. I think his birthday is June 12th. Anyway, oh my gosh, this is I am see, I have a million tangents, but I remember what I entitled this video, so I will get right back to it. So, as far as looking at dudes in porn, like looking at my old porn from my old porn collection, I'm like, that's looking at somebody in their 20s doing porn because you, I don't want to say you don't have a long shelf life in porn, but people kind of tend to prefer younger people in porn. And I don't, my personal preference is always the older guys. So I always try to find on the now rare occasion that I have time to actually just search for random porn. I'm not just pulling up something that I already had. But my preference is to pull up older dudes. Now, interestingly enough, and I don't want to say it's a fetish, but I don't want to say it's not. I don't know what it is. But looking up chocolate brothers with gray hair doing porn. But and that actually is a good segue into this part as well. With people having the majority of the porn consumers seeming to prefer people in their 20s and that barely legal bullshit that people like. But finding handsome chocolate older men in porn is not something it they don't seem to be readily available because it's not the thing. But that also speaks to the fact that people I was actually looking at some photos, some old photos of mine, and I came across this one porn dude who I remember being very attracted to for many years, and I'm still attracted to the photos that I have of him. And looking like really closely in his face, I'm like, he looks like he's 30 something, 40 something. But I know that people in porn, sex workers tend to age faster because it's hard work. It's really hard work. And how does it connect to me? Well, as far as seeing those people in porn, I'm like, wow, like looking back at my older porn videos, I'm like, this is a photo of this dude in his 20s. And in his 20s, oh man, he had the whole world ahead of him. You know, mm, I'm not about to make myself cry. But and it's not an absolute. Not everybody who does any kind of porn always ends up destitute. I'm sorry. The only reason I chuckled is because I was thinking about where one of the early places where I heard that term, which was on Strangers with Candy. And the rich girl in the high school was talking to Jerry Blank, and she's like being deliberately condescending. She said to her, "Oh, well, you look different, Jerry. You look, oh," she said, have you done something different? You seem different." And Jerry was like, "Well, maybe it's my hair," or something like that. But at the end of the day, the rich girl was like, "You look destitute." And that Strangers with Candy is my favorite show ever, period. Being Mary Jane is like up there too, like second. Maybe they go back and forth, but it's two different genres of shows, so I don't think you can compare them very much. But as far as people in porn, and looking at him, I was like, damn, as attracted as I have been to him in my 20s, we were probably both in our 20s at that time. And he looks there like a man in his 30s or 40s. And it's like, part of what gets me about looking at the porn, though, is I remember there was a time, I do remember the time that in my 20s that I was like, because I masturbated a lot. I was like, well, I guess some people just have a really high sex drive, and I must be one of those people. So I guess some people are just meant to do sex work. But I guess I didn't really have the connections, and it's not like I looked to try to do sex work, but I didn't know people who would suggest to me, "Hey, Aaron, you should do sex work," because I'm not gonna lie, mm, if and this is another thing that goes back to Strangers with Candy, when Jerry was like, "Don't settle for the first pimp to call you pretty." If I had mm, a pimp to call me pretty, I possibly would have gone with what they were offering, you know? And I remember talking to my dad the other day, and we were having a discussion about hashtag first TV. And I was, oh, my private YouTube, not my private YouTube page, my personal YouTube page came up, and my dad was like, "Hey, let me see that too. I want to take a look." And I was like, Ugh. And I told my dad, I was like, "Dad, I love you. I'm not gonna give it to you because I love you." And he left it at that. But overnight, I was like, "Oh crap! Like, what if he thinks that I didn't want to give it to him because like I'm doing porn on my YouTube?" And when I told my dad, I'm like, "No, it's not that I do porn. It's just that it's my personal page." And my dad was like, "Say no more." Like I that wasn't even a concern of mine because I know that you know better than to do porn. And it I was like, yeah, 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 of course, of course. In the back of my mind, I was like, wow, but if circumstances were different, I might have been that dude in porn. you know, and I look at these dudes in this porn, in these older porns, and it's like, I also think about people like XL. I bring him up all the time because I remember seeing him do an interview with on A Connection TV way back in the day when XL was new to porn, and back when Walter Lee Hampton was reading him the riot act about how it's like you're doing all these wild freaky things in porn, you need to watch out before you catch HIV, and scolding him almost. But I remember XL sitting in the bed with his handsome young self with Wesley of A Connection TV, and they were both shirtless and, you know, brick bodied. And Wesley was talking to him, and somehow it came up the question like, so do you intend to do porn for the rest of your life or anything? It I'm gonna hold my peace and not word it that way. But it was something along those lines. And Excel was like, no, I'm about to graduate with a degree in engineering in 2 weeks. And it was like, fuck. And that's not where the fuck comes from. The fuck comes from the fact that it can be a quite a transition. Some in cases, I have no idea what percentage of cases, because it's my understanding there are people who do make the transition from being a successful porn star to being a successful corporate person. You know, I I don't know, but I know that I've heard it through the grapevine that I heard it through the grapevine. I don't think I'm gonna necessarily say that, but I'll word it like this. Excel is apparently working outside of his corporate education. You know what fucking would suck? Oh man. If he still like has to pay off his fucking student loans and his people know he still does porn. He still does porn. It's my understanding he still does sex work and all of that. So you see the website that he's on, all of that, whatever. But like just to imagine, like if he's still, I don't know, because I would imagine that when he started porn, while he was in his senior year in college, he the thought was like hmm, and that movie fucked up people because they got people to think like, oh well, this is the thing to do, the Players Club. I never saw that movie, but I know it got a lot of people thinking like, oh well, I'll just strip or suck dick on the streets to pay for college. That's how I'm gonna pay for college. And next thing you know, people end up caught in it, and it's like it. It's a difficult situation, you know, because it's like you get a lot of money, but you have to. You don't have to spend it. but you get all of that money, but somehow it ends up being spent and you don't have anything to show for it. And you just end up uh, spinning your wheels, cycling through the same thing over and over and over. And I don't know. Whoever the one per whoever the one person is viewing, how are you doing, friend? Thank you. Um, I as far as me and porn, like that's my I forgot what I entitled this. It was something about porn. But yeah, but that's what I think now. I think about the fact that I'm 38, about to be 39, and when I look at the old porn that I've saved in my personal porn collection, because I do watch porn, I do, I have. I don't have as much time as I used to. That's a good thing. You know, but when I do take the time to turn on my old porn that I have, I'm like, these dudes are in their 20s. And it's like, you know what? I think I will combine this because I was going to make that a video. Actually, no, because that was a very long one. But I think about the I think it's a store or something called Forever 21. And I'm like, ooh, I would imagine that for some people, that could be a triggering thing because 21 represents the time that their whole life changed for the different, and that they went for that pimp that called them pretty. And like I said, I didn't come across that pimp. I remember, I think the closest I came was a hookup with a dude who was a porn director. And I think that he tested me in my face full of acne, but he was like, let me test him because he drugged me. And it was the freakiest I had ever been with somebody at that point with him. And it, I took a swallow of saliva right there, and that reminded me that speaking of the freakiest I'd ever been, when I was with him, I I remember I kept telling him to give me something to drink, give me something to drink by spitting in my mouth while we were kissing. Like so, and I've never ever since then asked somebody to give me something to drink in our physical interactions, period. But it's dot at the end of the sentence. Like I said, he drugged me, and I didn't even think about it. Ah, man. And it was probably gross because he had me sit in a chair and he was like, you know what I would like to do that's so sexy? I would like to blindfold you as I feed you fruit. That would be so sexy. And me being a 19-year-old, just gullible for anything, dude, I was like, okay, well, if that's what people do, cool. And I realized that was drugged fruit. But he wasn't that pimp to call me pretty because I sex with me's mediocre. Like Rihanna has a song, Sex with Me so amazing. Sex with me is mediocre. And even on drugs, as he had me, I it was probably still mediocre. And I remember after we finished, because when I was sucking his dick, I remember like at that point, that was the farthest I had gone below the shaft. And I guess I was like coming out of it as we were talking. And I was like, I didn't put my mouth on your butthole, did I? Because ew. And he was like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. Whatever. Because at that point, he had probably concluded that sex with him is mediocre. Because, ooh, I'll tell you all this, or you this. I saw somebody else come in for a second and then popped out. But whoever watches this, he actually had a sex video of somebody that I had a sex hookup with. Actually, honestly, he was the best oral sex that I had ever had. Like I normally would tell people don't suck my dick because it hurts, but oh my gosh, he was amazing. And it turns out that he did some porn with that guy. And interestingly enough, he was working on his fucking master's degree, you know? But I don't know. I don't think that I don't know anything about him. I wish him well. I wish him well. I wish him well. I wish him well. Mariah Carey's I Wish You Well. I love that song. But I also was thinking I am so all over the place and I keep bringing it back to where I was going. But in looking at that porn dude that I used to have a crush on, who I was like, he looks in his 30s, 40s, but chances are he was in his 20s at that time because, you know, porn life can't. My cat is always so desperate. And I'm not talking, I'm not punning on my cat is desperate, but this is my actual cat. And the only reason I won't show her to you is because I'm naked right now. I am naked, shoot. I'm in my apartment, so I can be naked. Okay. I work on the phones. Okay. So people don't have to know. Anyway, but in looking at him, I was like, because I can be thirsty, desperate at times. I I don't know. Because there's another beautiful chocolate dude that I used to crush on in addition to that guy. And I was in a Philadelphia train station and I think he walked by and I was like, who the is that haggard old man? And I was like, that's him. I'm not gonna say his name because I'm not gonna put his business out there, but I'm like, fuck. It can be a hard life. It can be. And but as far as the other guy, I was like, well, if and I don't want to say like if he doesn't look horrible, I'd consider it because at the end of the day, I'm not that uh, kind of guy, not that type of. Yeah, okay, that's a song by JoJo, but I'm not that kind of guy. For me, it's more about personality and how we connect mentally. That's important. So as far as him, if And I don't want to say if he was like, oh, I put all of that porn and sex work behind me, I'm ready to be a different man and work at. People can make it outside of porn. You just have to be, not you just have to, because I don't know. But I would assume that you would have to be committed in your work because there's always somebody who would appreciate that and want to see you succeed and bring you up. Anyway, but yeah, so if we connected mentally, I don't know his HIV status, but and I also don't want to say that prep is a thing because it is a thing. It is. But oh, I'm at 30 minutes. Well, I've already crossed it, so whatever. But while it is a thing, it's sex is not that big to me. So I could date him and he makes sure to take his medicine. And if we get to the point that it's like, oh, we're going to engage in sex, then I guess I would look into maybe getting on prep. I'm curious about the statistics on prep, but that's another story. But as far as who's actually taking it. Anyway, but yeah. But if he was just like, let's just be together. And again, I don't want to say if he wasn't doing well, he's definitely not doing porn anymore. Because again, you have a relatively short window of time to do porn before you become too old for porn. I don't think you're ever too old for street corner sex work, but that's another story. Anyway, I wouldn't want him to be doing street corner sex work though. I wouldn't want that because then you also have to deal with like him being in and out of jail because sex work is illegal in 49 of our 50 fantastic states. So, and I remember talking with a friend of mine years ago, a couple of years ago, about sex work because it was a question on OkCupid. Do you think sex work should be legalized all the way, legal but regulated, or should it stay illegal? And he was like, it should be legal all the way because what if, and this was the example that he gave, a little piece of sexist in it, a little piece. But you know, people don't always know. But he was like, what if a single mom wanted to make a little extra money to put food on the plate for her child? And she was like, I don't want to become a sex worker, but it's a thing that I want to do to make this thing happen. Because if it was if being regulated, it would be like, oh, you'd have to go to what, apply for a job doing sex work. And it's like, oh, you'd have to be a sex work employee. It's like, not necessarily everybody wants to do that. Okay. Anyway, but maybe somebody wants to just make a couple of dollars selling sex. Just like George Carlin said, and I am a huge George Carlin fan. And he's like, fucking is legal, selling is legal. Why isn't selling fucking legal? And but yeah, it's that's true. So yeah, what if somebody wanted to be an entrepreneur with the sex thing and be like, okay, I'm gonna do this thing and make a little bit of money. It's not that I want it to be my career, i.e., being regulated. Oh my gosh, I'm just talking too much, y'all. Um, uh, yeah, we just cracked 35. So I'm gonna stop, I think. But yeah, so that's my thing about porn. Would I give him a chance? What's his name? Tango. Oh my gosh, I'm attracted to Tango. Um, I am wasting time because there are a million things that I need to do. Oh my gosh, it's 10 o'clock. Talk to y'all later, social media family. Have a good night. Peace. Tea. Stay blessed. I have got to go.